direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome back to Rhett Conversations. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fury. And with me, she wants something else to get her through this semi-charmed kind of life. Adam Cole, baby. It's Leia Cameron.
I was like, did you just introduce me as Adam Cole?
Yeah, kinda. I was listening to the song the other day, and I'm like, get me through this semi-charmed kind of life. And I'm like, Adam Cole, baby.
Oh, hot start.
It fits. But yes, Leia, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
And our guest this week, curious about the Death of Elektra, so we're going to give it to her. It's the Baronessa, Miss Jennifer Howland.
Hi, it's me.
So, Jen, what made you pick this out of the list?
Well, okay, because I really liked the Netflix run of Daredevil.
Woo!
And I had forgotten how much hot trash garbage the movie was.
We did try to watch it the other day, but they don't have on streaming the director's cut, which is the only cut I can watch.
So I forgot how much hot trash garbage that was, but I remember thinking that it was far, far better than the movie they made about Elektra.
Yes.
And
God.
so,
Which was
yeah,
the sequel to that.
right. And so I don't want to see that.
I absolutely forgot that movie happened entirely until just now when you mentioned it. And I was like, there's no movie about, oh my God, there is.
Oh, about Elektra? Yeah, I still have not seen it. It has been on the list for Graphically Novel since our inception, and we just do not even speak of it.
Nobody wants that one, huh? Hard to believe.
It's like that and Catwoman are the two that everybody's like, nope.
I would do Catwoman first. I would do that one before.
The Halle Berry Catwoman
Yeah,
movie?
I'd do that before I do Elektra. And I say that, I know that I'm sure, because we live in a diverse and varied world, that there were people that really loved that movie. And it sucked.
No disrespect, but it sucks.
Yeah. It was real bad.
I mean, how many shows are reality TV? There's no accounting for it.
Yeah, that's very, very true, sadly.
It's very true. So I was curious about where that character came from. And, I was far more interested in the Elektra as portrayed, again, in the fabulous Netflix series.
And in the Netflix series, it's a lot closer to how it is.
Okay.
And I will give you a little bit of that background, but before we do that, let's talk about how this show's going to go in case anyone clicked on this, the first show they're ever listening to Rhett Conversations.
Welcome.
Yes, hello. So we have the two professors. There's me, Professor J, who will be presenting today. There's Professor L, who is my backup. So throw the crack up.
Wow.
I will be presenting to Jen the entirety of the storyline of Death of Elektra. We'll be covering issues 174 to 182 of Frank Miller's run on Daredevil. At any point, if she has a question, a smart-ass comment, if she just wants to stop the show, Jen can pull the emergency brake to ask any question or make any comment that she feels necessary to make. At that point, if it is a question, it is thrown to Professor L to answer. If Professor L cannot, she can go back to me. And since we have Jen as the guest on this episode, if neither of us can succinctly answer her question, Jen will just make something up, and that will be the new headcanon moving forward.
It'll be great.
So, let's get started on the Death of Elektra. Some things to know before we get into this. Elektra is not introduced in this. Elektra was actually earlier in the run. She was the college girlfriend of Matt Murdock. So she went to college with Matt and Foggy. This will be important later. she was trained by the Hand, a bunch of ninjas, and became a killer. Eventually found out that Matt was Daredevil. When she came back to New York, they had a big falling out over it because Matt believes that you kill only as a last resort, and Elektra kills basically first and asks questions second, as we will see throughout this comic. And that's where they are. She hasn't shown really up in the comics for a while. It's been like a couple years in comic continuity where Elektra hasn't been around. So we actually open issue 174 with Elektra in Paris tracking down a bounty. When before she can get to the bounty, a ninja from the Hand kills the bounty, and she's like, what the hell is the Hand doing in Paris? So she tracks the ninja to a meeting where the ninja, whose name is Genin, is given a new assignment, and that assignment is to kill Matt Murdock and his unnamed client. Basically, he's given a picture of Matt Murdock and then said, you're going to get a picture of the client when you get to New York. In true ninja fashion, the ninja takes the job, memorizes the photo, and burns it. Elektra has a crisis of faith for like 3 seconds. She's like, you know what? Fuck Matt. I'm not going to do anything for Matt. Matt can die, but I'm getting on a plane and going to New York and going to go save Matt.
God
So
bless.
I take it their breakup was not good?
No. He's like, you're a fucking murderer. And she's like...
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that would be a rough breakup.
Yeah. So in New York, we find Matt Murdock is defending somebody named Melvin Potter. Melvin Potter is a villain known as the Gladiator, and Matt is arguing that his client was basically crazy, that the persona of the Gladiator had taken him over, but now he's okay. So he asks for a delay in the court, and basically the prosecution shuts him down hard and is like, you've asked for all of these delays, and it's time to get this going. Meanwhile, in the court, there are two men talking about how Matt is totally blowing this case, or this, not the case, the trial.
The trial,
Yeah. He's totally blowing the trial, and one of them is like, well, that's because Foggy isn't here, and Foggy usually does better. I heard that Foggy, they split up, like, they are no longer going to be law partners. And this is how we're introduced to this concept.
Well, I have a quick question. It's a really small question, but everything I've seen has indicated that Foggy, while a good lawyer, not as good as Matt Murdock. But in the comic, Foggy is a better lawyer?
So, yes.
Well,
right, Leia.
I got the impression, and Josh, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not read a ton of Daredevil, but I got the impression that like they work best as a team, like rather than solo. Like that's kind of their whole thing, is that together they are like the dream team of lawyers. But only one of them, for a case is kind of A, unheard of, and B, not as good as both of them working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, just to back up on that, I mean, Matt is the orator of the team. He can go and he can sway a jury, but Foggy is the hit the books, find precedent, find the law.
Yeah, the loopholes.
Right, study all that stuff. So Foggy is the researcher and that, and then he supplies all of that to Matt, who spins a story and presents. So between the two of them, that's really, and for some reason that's just widely understood by people that's why they're, and the actual phrase dream team is brought up a lot in this. I have not written it down, nor will I kind of, continue to say that phrase, but they are a very nationally known team of lawyers.
Well, that makes sense. But what you said was Foggy's much better at this, which led me to believe that Foggy was the better
because
attorney.
Matt's doing his argument, but he's like, he was crazy, but he's better now. Where instead of going to precedent and law and making an argument, and that's what is being said is like, this will not win him the case.
Right. Got it.
All right. So Matt, so the judge basically says, yeah, no more delays. We're starting tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. See you there. So Matt leaves and starts going to, do his daredeviling. And as he's doing that, he's thinking about Foggy cutting him out, and Foggy hasn't told him why. He basically, like, Foggy has totally ghosted him. And he's not sure, like, what he's done, what's going on. So he goes to his brownstone and changes back. So he's only Daredevil for, like, a panel, and I don't know why he needed to be Daredevil to get
Just
home.
to remind you.
Right. But he gets home, and he changes, and he's walking through the room, and he's like, there are 4 other heartbeats in this room. That's probably not good. And then the ninjas attack. Matt beats them up and goes to question one of them, and they're like, no, you will never defeat the Hand. And the ninjas all dissolve themselves. Like, not just kill themselves with poison, like, there is nothing left but clothes.
Yeah, it's wild.
And Matt is like...
I guess that makes it easier for Matt to clean up.
Well, yes. And it fills the room with, like, this noxious gas. So Matt leaves the room.
Dissolving body gas.
Right. And he goes into the next room, and there's another body dissolving with a crossbow in it that somebody else has killed.
Okay.
And he's like, who hired ninjas to take me out, and who helped me? In the internal Matt Murdock way. Where meanwhile we see Elektra leaving his house, being like, "Let him wonder who helped him."
Wow. This is really, Snidely Whiplash shit.
A little bit.
This was written in, like, what, the 80s?
Yeah, late 80s.
I mean, so, like, there is... Well, we'll get to it.
Right. Kingpin's henchman Flint is having a one-on-one with Kingpin. Flint points out that the Hand is moving in on contracts that Kingpin's men should have claim to, and additionally, on the other side, Daredevil is causing their operation. And Kingpin basically reveals that he hired the Hand to take out Matt Murdock and his client, because Daredevil has shown an interest in Murdock. So that will put Daredevil and the Hand in conflict and weaken them both, and then Kingpin will go in for the kill. And he's basically like, this is Kingpin 101, my friend. Always make everybody else fight each other.
For you.
For you, yeah.
To your end, yes.
Right.
We love King.
Yes. Matt goes to his office where ninjas wait to blow him up. Like, they're standing outside in a very ninja way, being like, are the explosives hooked up? But Foggy is also there, so Matt actually gets to have the conversation with Foggy.
Well, since when did ninjas blow things up?
It's the 80s, I guess.
Okay.
I mean,
since this
limited
panel,
understanding of ninja tactics and techniques.
Right. Since this panel right here. Right. Find my place.
Foggy conversation.
Oh, right, yeah. And Matt convinces him to tell him what's going on. Meanwhile, outside, Elektra is fighting with all of the ninjas. While Foggy, inside, tells Matt the government grant allowing them to do all their welfare cases was cut, and he blames himself, like that he couldn't find something else, and so basically they're going to lose the office. And so that's why he's removed himself from Matt's life, is he feels like a failure.
Come on, Foggy.
I know.
Yeah. Matt tells him he needs him, and they hug, which is apparently the only solution that was needed was a conversation. Your favorite thing.
It is.
Could have been solved by talking.
Right? It's my favorite trope. It's like, all of this could have been solved with a single conversation.
Or an email.
Or just, like, dude, I'm so sorry that I feel like I failed. No.
Right.
No.
So while they're hugging, a ninja manages to break through out of the fight with Elektra and throw a grenade through the window, which explodes, injuring Matt, but not Foggy.
Okay.
Matt is in a void of nothing until he comes to with who will be Leia's favorite character in this, Heather Glenn, at his bedside. Heather Glenn is Matt's girlfriend at this time, and she's a socialite. That is a socialite and a party girl and a drunk. And that is pretty much her only... She's a very one-dimensional character.
Cool.
Yeah, Matt Murdock, if there's one thing that can be said about him is that he sure knows how to pick women.
I was
And-
gonna say why is he is like a defender, public defender, kind of, works welfare cases for people who can't afford it. Why is he dating something like that?
He sure knows how to pick them.
Okay.
You ever have like a friend who you love dearly and you think they are just the coolest, and for whatever reason they are constantly getting into relationships with people who are like certifiable?
Mm,
That's Matt Murdock, like right there.
okay.
Yeah. Up to and including Nat.
Well, his treatment of Nat is
Well, that's also, yeah.
that's a podcast for another day.
But yeah, this is also where we find out that she knows that Matt is Daredevil, because as soon as he wakes up, she's like, hey, Dr. Gloss is just here. He said you're going to be fine. And, while I will admit that it's a turn on having an affair with Daredevil, do you think maybe you could stop a little bit so you don't die?
So not only can he pick him, he doesn't know how to be quiet.
Matt Murdock is the worst at keeping his identity from women.
Oh yeah.
The worst.
I feel like he uses it as like a pickup line, like, "Hey,
Andrew
baby,
Garfield.
Daredevil," like,
Yeah, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man levels
Oh,
of
Jesus.
like,
Okay, so that begs the question, if he's that terrible about telling women about his secret identity, how come Kingpin doesn't know?
this is a plot further down that I always expected to come out of the Netflix show, where Karen Page is addicted to heroin and basically sells Daredevil's identity to Kingpin.
Oh,
yeah.
no, they can't
Yeah.
do that. People would
Yeah.
riot if Karen...
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's why when we watched the first season, like, you were like, I really like Karen. I'm like, wait for it. I don't trust her.
I don't trust her. What's she doing? Okay, we watched too much John Mulaney last night.
So Matt gets out of bed and trips over an end table, and realizes that due to the explosion, his radar sense is gone.
Because it's the explosion.
Yeah.
Okay, so people on the podcast can't see putting your hands over your eyes and rubbing them.
Oh, God. Okay, keep going. This isn't about Matt Murdock. This is about Elektra.
So the police are transferring Gladiator from one prison to another when Elektra basically jumps on the side of the truck. Why they have their windows open, I don't know, but she throws tear gas into the cab of the truck, and then frees Gladiator out of the back, giving him his Gladiator armor. He doesn't want to put it on because he's like, no, that part of my life is done. I can't. And she's like, ninjas will be here soon to kill you. If you don't put on this armor, they're going to succeed. And so he puts on his armor. And then ninjas attack. Daredevil shows up, but doesn't have his radar sense, so doesn't know that Elektra is with Melvin. He just knows there's a woman from his hearing and things like that. Melvin can't fight since the Gladiator persona left him. So he is just throwing the weakest ass punches and be like, meh, where he used to be a supervillain. Daredevil jumps in and basically says, I will fight by listening for the heartbeats of the ninjas, which doesn't explain how he doesn't kick the shit out of Elektra and Melvin, but okay.
Exactly.
Well, they know to stay out of his way.
Right. The Hand retreats and Elektra follows them, leaving Melvin with Daredevil. And Melvin tells Daredevil that it was a lady with a scythe that helped him. And Daredevil's like, it couldn't have been her. The three surviving Hand report to their big boss. And the big boss is like, okay, so you failed. And calls over a pink ninja, and the pink ninja fights all three of the failed Hand and kills them all.
Why didn't she just dissolve them? Also, in my head, the head of the Hand is the woman from the Netflix series. So.
Yes, it's not, but
Yeah.
hold on to that for a while. The pink ninja is then given the assignment of killing Matt and his client, plus killing Elektra. They're like, and now Elektra needs to die too.
So Barbie Ninja.
Yeah, it's guy just in pink ninja
Whatever.
outfit. Where's the rest?
Barbie.
Huh?
I said, whatever, Barbie.
Okay. Whereas the rest of the hand wear red, this guy wears pink.
Yeah, I mean, like,
He wears light red.
yes, I was gonna say, I don't think there was a lot of colors that had been invented in the mid to late 80s, so they had to really work with what they knew.
That's why they had those shirts that you would put your body heat on them and they would change color because they were like, look, we have more than one color.
Maybe that ninja, his suit was originally red and it's so old and washed
Such
so
an old
often.
ninja.
He's an old ninja.
Well, we solved it.
Yep.
That is the end of the first issue. The next issue, Elektra is meditating in her hotel room in a bikini, like you do.
Maybe it's her bra and underwear.
No, it's literally like tied in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. She detects someone and throws a sigh, barely missing Daredevil, who has come to talk. They banter. Matt basically tries to sweet talk her, and she throws him out a window. He's like, hey, baby.
What's a sai?
Sai is the three-pronged weapon.
Like the fork?
Yes.
The gig?
The one that Raphael has.
The frogging gig?
Yes, the froggy gig.
Okay.
Meant to deflect mostly bladed weapons.
And catch frog.
My notes on this are just so funny because I said Daredevil comes to talk. She throws, they banter. Matt tries to sweet talk her. She throws him out a window. Matt realizes she hates him.
Like, okay, I want to point out too, again, haven't read a ton of Daredevil, but what I have read, this is pretty much standard operating procedure for Matt Murdock.
Oh yeah, no, this is his foreplay. But usually he has his radar vision when he gets thrown out a window. Because literally he's like falling in midair and he's like, oh my god, she hates me.
Buddy, get your
What?
head out of your own ass.
Right? What gave you the clue?
Yeah. But he's also like, despite everything else, that's the worst part, is that she hates me. Like, oh. Dude.
Not the worst part being that you are falling out of
a window.
Right. Back at home, Heather has left a note basically saying that she's leaving him for the third time this month. I mean, literally, it's like you were here, we were supposed to go to a party, so I went by myself and I never want to see you again.
Yeah.
And then he's like reading it and he's like, well, this is the third time she's broken up with me this month. They lived.
So can we rewind a little bit? He got thrown out a window. What happened?
He's fine. He's all right.
His little
Don't worry about
baton
it. It's a comic book.
thing.
He
Yeah.
daredeviled.
Yeah, he daredeviled.
Okay, well, I think that is the answer from now on. If you don't know the answer,
He
what?
daredeviled.
How did it happen? He daredeviled.
A wizard did it.
A wizard did it. Fireball.
So Daredevil, so Foggy's on his way to the courthouse, like gets in a cab, when half a dozen ninjas, like, jump Foggy on his way to the courthouse. All but one of the ninjas dissolves, and that drops a business card. Elektra shows up out of nowhere, hits Matt in the back of the head, doesn't knock him out, but just basically staggers him for a second and takes the business card. Like, this is just her hello, I guess. Matt says, okay, ninjas dissolving, attacking Foggy.
Wait, can you rewind? Because Foggy was in a cab. Foggy got attacked by ninjas,
Yes,
and then Matt appeared.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And Daredevil just kind of appears. This all happens without really any sense.
Okay.
So Foggy doesn't even see that the ninjas are after him. It's like you just see Foggy like
Typical
sitting there
Foggy.
having his
Yeah.
his whole, oh yes, well, this is going to be a day, and I'm so glad that Matt and I are talking again. And meanwhile, like a hand with claws is like coming down to snake into the window, and then it gets pulled back, and you just see Matt tackling this ninja off of the top of the cab and then fighting a bunch of others.
Okay.
So Elektra picks up the business card and Matt's like, okay, first of all, I'm not sure that these are actually hand knits.
First of all, ow.
Yeah, well, yes. I don't think that these are actually hand ninjas. I think these are plants to get me to use this business card to go to a trap. And Elektra's like, yep, so we should go to the trap and spring it to find out who said it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like Elektra here.
Elektra basically attacks the base, and Daredevil joins her. Foggy, meanwhile, is in court and has to present a case Matt has been on. He has to present the case that Matt was working on before that he expected to show up and have Matt there.
Turn around is fair play.
I guess.
But are people saying that he's much better when Matt is there?
I don't know. They don't. We hear nothing from the rest of the court.
Ergo, Foggy is a better lawyer.
So the pink ninja, we find out, is named Kurigi. He and Elektra fight. She scores 2 killing blows on him, but he no-sells them. He's like, nope, not really dead.
Completely no cells.
Yeah. Elektra fights him until he flees. Matt defeats 3 ninjas. And meanwhile, it's kind of interspersing like this fight with Foggy in court. And so like Matt's fighting 3 ninjas as Daredevil, and Foggy's like, I call for a mistrial. And then he goes back to fighting the ninjas. Elektra kills the leader of the Hand, the guy that had been giving out the contracts, eliminating the contract ? She says it does. I don't know if that's the rule of ninjas. Is that if you can, like old school second ed vampire, where if you killed an Assamite, none of the other Assamites could take contracts on you?
Yeah, I don't really know, like, in the terms of this book, if, yeah, I mean, like, are all the ninjas working together under a unified code? Are there independent ninja guilds that don't follow that? It's not clear.
Right.
Well, in my head, I have like a John Wick, The Office.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's like, the leader of the Hand has been killed. That negates all contracts under this. And then there are like tattooed women in 50s office wear using a manual switchboard to let people know.
Right. So, yeah. She kills the big guy and says the Hand will hunt her no longer. Not sure why that is. But while she's standing over, like, the Hand dude, Daredevil comes in and is like, you're a murderer, Elektra, cold-blooded assassin, and I'm taking you in. And then he passes out.
Cool.
So bad.
Yeah. So Elektra basically stands over Matt's body as he's bleeding out. She's like, I have so many problems with Matt, and if I just let him bleed out right now, I'm free.
The end. Right off into the sunset. Go back to Paris, girl.
Shit.
So it is apparent that she bandaged him up and he's okay because he shows up at court.
No
explanation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a normal person does.
Right. And when he walks into court, Heather is there to
break up with him again?
To give him a hug and take him back.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, out of the courtroom, the prosecutor that Matt has been doing the case against, like, comes out and he's pissed. And it's like, Murdock, that bullshit that your partner pulled, it's all theatrics and I'm going to get you. And then Foggy comes out and he's like, yeah, I used a 1932 precedent to have the case thrown out. This is where we find out that researcher Foggy is the man.
Yeah.
And then we have a scene with Kingpin where he's like, yes, I have won because the Hand were taken care of by Daredevil.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Also, prosecutor dude, using case precedent is not theatrics. That's law. That's how it works.
Yeah, this guy doesn't seem like he's a very good or competent lawyer.
No. Get good, noob. So that's the end of that comic. On the beginning of the next issue, there's like a homeless guy like digging through trash and stuff, and he finds a ninja sword, and he's like, "Oh, cool, ninja sword." And he starts to dig it out when a hand comes out of the rubble and grabs him by the neck and takes his sword back, and then that's where we see that it's Kagiri in his ninja outfit with the sword like sticking through him. So apparently he ran away and then just like fell into a river or something and washed up. Not really clear.
Okay.
There's a bunch of like internal Kagiri talk, just word bubbles in his own head. Like he's walking down the street with the sword still through him. Like a police officer walks up to talk to him, and without even looking at the police officer, he just knocks him out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in these word bubbles, we basically find out that he has sworn vengeance on Elektra. Matt is moping in the rain about losing his radar sense. Probably one of the easiest ways that I can explain this whole scene. Because Heather comes to the window, because he's outside on
His patio?
No, on
like a ledge?
A ledge, yeah. Like if it was Batman, he'd be on a gargoyle. The gargoyle isn't here, Daredevil is instead.
Yeah.
And so Heather's like, Matt, come inside. We're supposed to go to the Pavarotti concert. You gotta get her out of your Daredevil outfit. Come on, you promised. And he's like, I must go and find Stick, the man that taught me about my radar vision all those years ago. And she's like, okay, but you don't have your radar vision. Come off the ledge. We got to go to a concert. Just don't be Daredevil tonight. And he's like, no, I must go. And jumps off and swings away. Then she notices also that he goes to do his like little baton thing and swing and misses because he doesn't have his radar vision and falls and like jumps off of a lamppost at the last minute. And she's like, yeah, he fell. He almost died. He's going to die. She spends a little bit of time being like, well, fuck him then.
Like,
and then
literally the panels are her just like
in a nightgown.
Like in a nightgown, like 1950s romance comic, like back of the hand to forehead, pining about like, how come this isn't about me? You know, it's so awful.
What's that, John Ralphio? She's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, she has this pity party and then goes, no, I'm gonna help him, and like leaves the house to go find Stick on her own. The socialite who has nothing to do with
she get dressed
literally
first?
anything.
She does get dressed first.
Good.
She leaves the house. Elektra has been watching the house, didn't see Daredevil leave, but goes, okay, I'll follow Heather, because Heather will lead me to Matt. And as Elektra goes to follow Heather, Kagiri is watching from a different building and is like, aha, I will follow Elektra. And then I will pounce at the right time.
Is this how we get rid of Heather?
I guess we'll...
Yeah.
So, okay. This is one of my favorite running jokes in Daredevil in everything that I read in Frank Miller. Frank Miller has a character named Turk. And Turk is the dude that Daredevil literally goes to and beats up for information all the time.
Poor guy.
He hates Daredevil so much.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because it's never like, I'll give you money or anything like that. It's literally like, I show up, I beat the shit out of you, and I leave you. Yeah. So Turk is at a saloon full of bad people and cheating at cards. So people are about to kill him when Daredevil sweeps in and is like, hey, I need him for a second. And yeah, a bunch of people come up from behind and hit Daredevil, and they're like, whoa! That actually worked. How do we actually hit Daredevil? And they go to kill him when Josie, who is the owner of the establishment, comes out with a shotgun and is like, listen, if you're going to kill him, you're going outside. Like, you're not killing him in my bar.
Don't get blood on the floor.
Right. Literally says, if you want to fog him, do it outside.
I just cleaned.
So they take Daredevil outside, and one guy, there's two of these main like guys that will show up throughout this comic. There's Turk and there's Grotto, and they're both just like idiot henchmen in this CD world. And Grotto's like, listen, as they're carrying him out, he's like, listen, I don't think this is a good idea. He has broken your jaw. He has like broken my legs. We should just not do. And Turk's like, no, he tried to be cute with me, and I'm going to take him out once and for all. And that's when Matt wakes up and kicks the shit out of all of them. Yeah. And then after Daredevil leaves is when Turk's like, I'm going to take care of this guy once and for all. So this is going to be a subplot.
Okay.
Meanwhile, at a pool hall, Heather shows up, goes to the largest guy in the place, and goes, "I'm looking for Stick. I have money." Guy leads her into an alleyway where he's about to rape her, and she pulls a gun on him. So after that, Turk and Grotto break into like conglomerate. The Cord conglomerate is what it's called, to steal a super suit, because they're going to use the super suit to kill Daredevil.
They just can't take it anymore.
Right. Daredevil goes around shaking trees, and the criminals are starting to basically whisper about how Daredevil seems a little like off kilter. He's bumping into things. There must be something wrong with him, and they should be able to take him out. And as they're realizing this, Elektra is following Matt, and when a guy is about to jump him, just very quietly just killing the dude. And this happens a few times. And it's bad too. It's like sigh through the back so that the shirt like goes in and is tented. Yeah, it's her signature move, and she does it to everyone.
Wow. I thought she wanted to kill him.
It's
so
complicated.
She also tracks down Walleye Pike, who's a snitch who knows where Stick is. She gets there before Daredevil does. So she finds out where Stick is and leaves. Then Turk shows up in his super suit and makes Walleye Pike tell him where Stick is, and then like leaves through the wall. Then Daredevil shows up, and this Walleye Pike guy's like, "Just go! He's here!" All of them get to the location at roughly the same time at Duke's pool hall. Stick is hustling pool. Heather, with her rapist, shows up, or her would-be rapist shows up, because now they're buddy-buddy, because she pulled the gun on him. Then Daredevil, then Turk.
She showed him.
Daredevil knocks out Turk easily. Like, Turk's like, "I have a super suit." He's like, it knocks him out. Elektra is jumped outside by Karigi. She hits him with a semi. Like, basically, she gets away, grabs a semi-truck, and runs over him, pushing his body into the bay, where the truck explodes.
As trucks often do when they are rolled into water.
Yeah, all the time.
And walking out of the bay, Karigi comes back to stalk her while on fire, and she decapitates him.
Okay.
That is the end of that issue.
Yep.
So Stick has been training Matt for 3 days straight, not allowing him to sleep. Without his radar vision, he basically is making a blind man shoot a bow and arrow at a target and will not let him sleep until he hits the bullseye. As he concentrates, Matt goes into like a fugue state where he faces his dad and childhood bullies. His dad basically making him promise never to fight, which he's broken several times.
Yep.
All the childhood bullies that made fun of him for blind. I've never understood. Like, I've never known somebody, even as a child, that was like, "Hey, you're blind. Like, I'm gonna beat you up because you're blind." You're a piece of shit.
Well, I mean, in the movie, and I think the series, weren't the bullies making fun of him and beating him up because of his dad?
Well, yes, but he was still blind.
Yes.
Yeah, he comes to and tells Stick that he was in a fugue state, and Stick is like, "Yes, well, you need to face them in order to get your radar sense back," and then tells him to fire it.
Okay.
So Heather is bored, so calls up some dudes to go cheat on Matt. Like, is basically like, "Hey, what's going on? Yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while. You want to go out?" Like, basically with the thought of she can call a guy and he'll pay for everything.
Yeah.
We move to J. Jonah Jameson, who is calling Ben Ulrich into his office. Ben has connected a prospective candidate for mayor with organized crime. And Ben, like, immediately is like, "So you want me to kill it or what?" And JJ's like, "No. I just want you to be very, very sure of your facts and your sources, because this will end in a lawsuit. And possibly people getting killed." So Matt hallucinates again and he hallucinates his accident where he saved an old man and then got blinded. And in his dream state, he just starts yelling at the old man, basically saying, "You ruined my life," because he can't watch me. Okay, so the mayoral candidate's name is Cherry. Cherryh. I'm going to pronounce it Cherry because it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
He's meeting with Kingpin to complain about the article, and Kingpin says it'll be taken care of. In their bombed out office, Foggy gets a call from J. Jonah Jameson, who wants to hire them. Going back, Matt is now on 5 days of no sleep. He faces his hallucination dad, who is murdered by the devil.
Yeah.
Cool.
Foggy, proving that he is actually a very good negotiator, basically says to JJJ, okay, so you need us. You absolutely need us. So you're going to have to front the money for a new office for us, and ahead of time, in order for us to represent you. In his mind, Matt fights the devil and wins, and comes out of his state and has his radar sense back.
All he needed to do was fight the devil.
Right? Kingpin gets briefed about how it was Elektra that killed the Hand and not Daredevil, and he sends his minions out to find her, invite her. Yes. That is the end of this issue, beginning of next. Elektra is attacked by 4 assassins. Once she kills them, she finds a note from Kingpin inviting her to discuss employment opportunities. Basically, he's like, "You have passed the interview. Congratulations." Kingpin, meanwhile, meets with Cherry to discuss a witness in the case, someone named Sheldon, who has check stubs that the Kingpin signed over to Cherry's campaign. Which I'm not sure that's how check stubs work, or like how Kingpin would work, but
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Sheldon is meeting with Murdock, Nelson, and J. Jonah Jameson. Truant officers show up because Sheldon is high school age and go to take Sheldon away when Matt pulls some Keystone Cops blind bullshit and sets everything into confusion. So basically, Matt's like, "Oh no, I'm blind," and starts knocking things over and causes enough confusion that Sheldon can run away. So Sheldon runs out of the building, and Daredevil, Matt has turned into Daredevil and goes over and saves Sheldon, and then goes to talk to Sheldon and is like, "Hey, we could really use..." And Sheldon bites Daredevil and runs away. You're giving me the same look I gave the page.
But okay. Moving on.
Foggy, meanwhile, is trying to hire Luke Cage and Iron Fist to protect Matt. Foggy obviously does not know that Matt is Daredevil.
Right.
At this point.
Right.
Does
Luke Cage and Iron Fist know that Matt Murdock is... Okay.
No. Luke doesn't want to do it because bodyguarding is boring, but Iron Fist talks him into it because they need the money. So the goons from earlier that were the truant officers visit Matt in his office to shake him down for the check stubs. As they talk, Matt turns on a tape recorder and gets them to confess everything, and that Kingpin sent them, before Foggy, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist all walk in. In the fight, the recorder gets smashed. And the next day, Matt... And Matt is pissed. To Luke Cage and Iron Fist, he's like, "You smashed the recorder that had evidence." And they're like, "We just saved your life, buddy." And he's like...
I do not thank you.
Right. The next day, the first thing that Matt does is he loses Luke Cage and Iron Fist to go run around as Daredevil. Luke and Danny both assume that Matt was kidnapped, and on this decide that the best course of action is to go and beat up Cherry.
Yeah, it's certainly a choice.
Yeah. They, of course, learn nothing because Cherry doesn't know anything. When they leave, Cherry gets a call from Sheldon setting up a meet during a parade to exchange jewels for the check stubs. Daredevil is outside of Cherry's window listening, so knows that the meet is going to happen. At the parade, Turk and Grotto are there to get Sheldon, because if they can get Sheldon, they can work for Kingpin. Cherry is handing out bags of jelly beans to kids from a parade car. Sheldon approaches with the checks, and Cherry goes to hand him the jewels, but a kid takes the jewels thinking they're jelly beans and runs away, like snatches them and runs away. Sheldon chases the kid, still having the check stuff. Turk and Grotto see Sheldon and give chase. Murdock is spotted by Luke and Danny. He ducks in an alley as Daredevil telling them that Murdock is safe. Danny doesn't buy it and fights Daredevil. Meanwhile, the kid has swallowed the jewels and broken a tooth. Sheldon climbs up.
Because kids are dumb.
Yes.
They are
Sheldon
so dumb.
has noticed that Turk and Grotto are after him and climbs a Kermit the Frog float to get away from Turk and Grotto. He then falls off the float and into Luke Cage's arms. Sheldon said he did it to get his sister a leg operation so she could dance again. That was why he was selling the check stubs. Also, the checks fell out of his pocket while he was on the float, and it is a ticker tape parade. And so the check stubs are gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My last note for this issue is Elektra murders her way into a meeting with Kingpin she was invited to.
Yes, why does she do this? I don't understand.
Because she wants everyone to know that it's perfectly clear she is a murder face bitch.
That's right. She's a murder hobo. It's like in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where he's running towards the castle and it's just like, aha! He just starts like murdering everyone. Yeah, that's Elektra in this entire comic.
They're like, come in. Okay, stab, stab, stab.
Yes. Beginning of the next issue, Ben Ulrich meets an informant in a movie theater. The informant is kind of giving him a little bit of, stuff on the Kingpin, where all of a sudden the informant's shirt tense and Elektra has killed him from behind through the movie chair and basically looks at Ulrich and is like, you know what, you're really going to want to stop your investigation in Cherry or I'm going to be sent back to take care of you. So, word to the wise, stop. Ben, who knows Matt is Daredevil, calls him. Matt quickly figures out Elektra is working for Kingpin. Cherry calls Ulrich and sets up a meeting to basically threaten him. He calls a journalist and sets up a meeting to threaten him. After he already knows that an assassin has been there and has warned him.
Yeah.
Ulrich is saved by Daredevil. Daredevil sticks around to hear Cherry call Kingpin for a meeting. So basically, like, Daredevil gets Ulrich out and, like, goes back to sit outside of his window as Cherry's like, Kingpin, we need to meet. This is bullshit. But during that meeting time, Matt is supposed to be in court. So he's basically telling Ben this, and he's like, we'll get him some other time. Ben, who's an idiot, goes to take pictures of the meeting, of Cherry meeting with Kingpin. He then, for some reason, takes pictures of a bag lady that is, like, trying to get into the building, and they push her away. And he's like, he basically explains it as, I have a reporter's instinct that this lady is somehow important, so takes basically saying that a lot of times that has come through his journalistic gut feelings.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes. Urich's wife doesn't like that he's always gone or that he risks his life. And man, she just reads in the riot act. She's like, stop doing stupid shit. You're a reporter. That doesn't mean you can just get murdered.
Right.
Like, you are not a superhero.
You will die.
Right. Ulrich meets an informant who tells him about a mistress that Cherry apparently has. And Urich's like, yes, I'll follow up on this. That's when Daredevil shows up, and it's like, yeah, everybody's saying the same thing, which means it's not true, which means it's a trap.
Yeah.
Daredevil goes to investigate. Ben follows and sees Daredevil fighting Elektra. Elektra uses a bear trap on Daredevil.
What?
Yes. Like, they fight, and all of a sudden, Matt's leg is caught in a bear trap, and Elektra's like, leave me alone, or the next time I'll set it to take your damn leg off.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Okay. because that's what bear traps do.
Yeah,
This is definitely a case, like this entire story and a lot in it is just definitely a case of just waving your hands in the air and yelling comic books, and like that's it. There is no explanation for this and many other things in this run.
right. And I will say it is good dumb. It's not like unreadable dumb.
Yeah, it's just very comic books, like 1980s comic books. We don't really need to explain why there's a bear trap here type of situation.
Right.
Yeah. Where is she hiding that bear trap in that costume?
Well,
Never mind.
While he's in the bear trap, she also collapses a wall on him. She's like, "Leave me alone!" and like pushes a wall.
Go away! I don't want to talk to you.
Yurik coughs and gives himself away because he's been taking pictures. Elektra throws one of her sais and stabs Yurik through the back, and that is the end of that issue. We begin issue 180 with Daredevil just showing up and beating up Turk and Grotto. These poor guys. It's basically like, I need information, so let me just beat you up. Again and again and again. Yurik is alive, and after a stint, he's had a stint in the hospital. He still has his pictures to develop, because I guess Elektra did not smash his camera.
Okay, that's dumb, but okay. Also, 80s must develop film.
Yes, he's in a darkroom. And he basically is going to hang the story and probably just sell the pictures to J. Jonah Jameson for whatever he can get for them. But he's like, I almost died. This is enough. I'm not going to run this. He does look closer at the bag lady picture and then tells his assistant to get him the Kingpin file right away. Daredevil takes a cab to meet Yurik since his leg is still messed up from being caught in a bear trap.
Oh my god.
Yurik thinks the bag lady is actually Kingpin's wife who supposedly died, that it is Vanessa. They search for her in the sewers because that's apparently where bag ladies go. Yeah. Daredevil sends Yurik to go home as he searches deeper, but on his way back, Yurik gets kidnapped. J. Jonah Jameson recants the Bugle's story, and it appears Cherry will be mayor. Daredevil lets the people in the dark take him, because it's like you walk into shadows and like grubby arms and hands come out and just take you. That is what happens in these sewers.
Cool.
And Daredevil's like, I could fight them, but I'm just going to let them take me wherever they're going to take me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do I have Tina Turner? Are we going to Thunderdome?
We don't need another hero. Cherry is winning in a landslide, but the current mayor will not yet concede. Basically, all of these homeless people take Daredevil and Yurik to the Underworld King, who has made Vanessa his queen. The king feeds Daredevil and Yurik to a giant alligator. Daredevil defeats the alligator and then defeats King. Vanessa walks up and declares Daredevil the new king of the underworld. Cherry is declared as mayor, and as the Kingpin watches the announcement of Cherry being mayor, Daredevil shows up and tells Kingpin he has Vanessa, and he'll exchange her for Cherry being exposed.
Okay.
Cherry immediately withdraws from the race and is disgraced. Kingpin comments on what a good, little pawn he is, that he's willing to do that. Kingpin also says that someone must die for this. J. Jonah Jameson is too high profile, and Daredevil protects Murdock, so Kingpin tasks Elektra with killing Foggy.
Oh boy.
End of that issue. Issue 181. Bullseye is in jail fantasizing about killing Daredevil. He hates Daredevil for saving his life, because basically he thinks that Daredevil saved his life as a fuck you to him.
Yeah.
Well, Bullseye is kind of a fucked up character.
Yes. So is the warden of this facility, because Bullseye has somehow befriended the warden and has his own private gym. A reporter shows up to interview him, and we see that Bullseye has headaches from a recently removed brain tumor. And so, yeah, that kind of dehabilitated. So this is just letting you know that headaches happen with Bullseye and that he has to have medication for it. In the prison yard, Punisher approaches Bullseye, because Punisher's in prison, and tells him Kingpin isn't going to break him out since he has a new assassin. Bullseye uses the interview as a way to escape, basically fakes a headache, so somebody puts a pill in his mouth, and then is able to spit that at bullet velocity, and, escapes prison. He's going to kill Daredevil, but first, he's going to take out Elektra, who took his job. He goes to, and this is honest to God the name of this man, Sweaty Texas.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had Walleye Pike, so Sweaty Texas is,
Yep, and he catches a man called Mr. Slaughter, giving Sweaty Tex and his crew an assignment, and that assignment is to kill Bullseye. So Bullseye is just basically like, oh yeah, you're looking for me? Takes out...
I'm right here.
Yep, takes out Tex and all of his people, and it starts to walk on Mr. Slaughter. Mr. Slaughter's like, whoa, you don't want me. You want Elektra? She's been sent to kill Foggy Nelson. You can find her around him. Would you like a cigar?
That's fantastic.
So, Bullseye is starting to suspect that Daredevil and Murdock are the same person, because he's not dumb. Bullseye watches Foggy and Murdock in court and plants a tracker on Foggy. Foggy gets in a cab, and Bullseye goes up to another cab and is like, follow that cab. And the guy's like, I'm off duty. And Bullseye's like, well, I gave you a chance. Murders him and takes the cab.
All right.
Foggy's driver, we find out, is Elektra. Foggy recognizes Elektra as Matt's girlfriend from college as she goes to murder him, and she lets him go.
But why was she going to murder Foggy?
Because Kingpin ordered her to.
Oh, right.
Then Bullseye appears, and he and Elektra fight. Bullseye gets the upper hand when he throws an ace of spades into her neck, and then stabs her with her own sai. She crawls up the street bleeding onto the stairs of Matt's brownstone, where Matt comes out and she dies in his arms.
Yes.
What?
Yep. That's literally how she dies.
All of that.
All of that.
All of the story. All of this build up for that.
She just straight up gets stabbed by her own weapon after a playing card to the throat.
Yep.
Not like a special fancy, razor bladed metal playing card. Just regular old bicycle deck of cards, paper card.
Okay.
So, the next scene is Matt and Foggy going to the coroner to identify Elektra's body. Bullseye is posing as the coroner when Matt and Foggy walk in. Bullseye notices Matt recognize his voice and is like, uh-oh, and kind of makes his exit. But as Matt and Foggy are leaving, Bullseye throws a scalpel at Matt at his back, and Matt just moves his cane to block the scalpel and then keeps walking. And that's when Bullseye's like, yup, he's Daredevil. So Matt knows that his cover is blown, and Bullseye knows that Daredevil is Matt. Bullseye goes straight to Kingpin and tells him Murdock is Daredevil, and Kingpin doesn't believe him.
Nice.
And basically he says, tell you what, if you can bring me Daredevil's body, we can do business. You can be my assassin. Bullseye sneaks into Murdock's brownstone, and Matt is at a table reading law books when Daredevil jumps Bullseye from behind. Now, we as the audience can see that the Murdock reading books is a dummy with like a tape recorder playing, but from Bullseye perspective, he can't see that. Mm-hmm. So he's like, oh, I guess I was wrong. I guess Murdock and Daredevil are different people.
Oh my goodness.
Bullseye and Daredevil fight. Daredevil goes to catch Bullseye from a large fall. And Bullseye's like, no, don't you save me again. And Daredevil says, you will never kill anyone ever again, and drops him. Bullseye lands on his neck and is paralyzed with a shattered spine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is the end of that issue. Last issue.
What happened to I will never kill anybody? I mean, I guess he didn't kill him, but Jesus Christ.
It was definitely on the table.
Yeah, I'll just fate worse a death than him. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt wakes up at the beginning of this issue from a sleep, convinced that Elektra is alive.
Okay.
So he talks himself out of it at the beginning, reminding himself that she died in his arms, and then is like, well, maybe I'll look into it some more. Meanwhile, Punisher is getting attacked by 3 guys in the prison showers. He kills all 3.
As you do. As Punisher.
He's visited by an agency man who never identifies his agency, who then says, that's the 4th time he's killed people this week. And he's like, they keep jumping me.
Tell him to leave me alone.
Right. So the agency man recruits him and says, come work for my agency. Once again.
You are a solid killer. Come work for me.
Yep.
Come work for me and we will put bumper stickers on half the cars of America.
Daredevil is beating up a bar full of thugs for information, because that's apparently just what he does. When he finds out Kingpin is holding a summit at the top of the top 6 East Coast mobsters at midnight. Matt is going over Elektra's murder with his assistant Becky, checking for any mistake which would leave Elektra alive. Heather comes in with some papers she wants Matt to look over because somebody wants to buy some of her interest in a company that she owns.
Okay.
And Matt's like, not right now. Matt brushes her off hard. She gets pissed, breaks up with him, and leaves. Turk and Grotto are busting out of prison and happen to run across Punisher, who's doing the same. Except Punisher actually has the agency man helping him and has a helicopter to go to. Daredevil beats up a bunch of dudes in front of Kingpin and threatens Kingpin. Kingpin calls his bluff and says, you would never resort, because basically Daredevil's like, where's Elektra? And Kingpin's like, she's dead, but you would not attack me and resort to violence just to test a theory. Which is interesting that he says that, because Daredevil has literally just beat up a bunch of dudes in front of him.
Yeah.
So
not clear where he got that impression from.
Right. Well, but he's right, because Daredevil leaves. And there are 6 bodies basically in front of Kingpin of all these guys that Daredevil beat up.
Okay.
And Daredevil assumed that they were the 6 East Coast mobster bosses. They were not. The 6 East Coast mobster bosses were in a back room. They come out and they're like, now we can do business.
Now that Daredevil has beat these guys up.
Right. We can do business. Judge Coffin calls Foggy at 4 a.m. and says,
what judges.
Matt has woken the judge up to sign an exhumation order for Elektra's grave. Punisher kills a lot of guys and finds out that the shipment that he was basically brought onto this agency to break up this exchange is not really a shipment at all, but is a child. The agency man tries to turn on Frank and take Frank out, but he knocks him out, so Frank is free now. Matt digs up Elektra and runs his hands over her face and confirms that it is her, and she's actually dead.
Wow.
And that is the end of the Death of Elektra.
It's just certainly something.
I feel like this was written by 2 high school dudes.
I mean, it's Frank Miller, and this is very indicative of Frank Miller in the 80s.
Yeah, this is very much like a really good representation, I think, of what it was like to read comics in the 80s.
Yes.
It really is. I mean, it's a classic story, but it's a classic story because it's also it's so different than the way that modern comics are written and illustrated today.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there were several times that I had the feeling that I was listening to story pitch for a soap opera, like an 80s soap opera.
It's very, very soap opera in nature, for sure.
Yeah, it's just, it's we have moved further in our storytelling because there's a lot of, as we pointed out, there are a lot of things where you kind of have to just let it go and fill in the details on your own.
Yeah.
Like why we're moving from one place to another,
Yeah.
how Matt got out from under a wall, and you know,
A bear trap. I mean,
Yeah.
like what? I mean, you said bear trap, and the first thing that came to mind was Wile E. Coyote. Like
Kinda.
it's very goofy and not at all what I would, because I think of Daredevil as being a darker comic.
Well, this is about as dark as it got me. Like
Yeah.
Frank Miller is as dark as could get in these, especially in a Marvel or DC branded comic. So,
Okay.
but yeah, what'd you think?
It was all over the place.
Sure was.
It was so all over the place, and I think because I was like trying to like put pieces together, it was slightly more interesting than the movie. But you know, on paper, I don't think that. I think they actually had a hard slog with the movie because of the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see areas of this in the Daredevil. Again, director's cut so much better. Not nearly as cringy. But yeah, that's so that is the Death of Elektra. Thank you for joining us and for listening to wild fucking story. And everybody else, please tune in 2 weeks when we will release Cable and Deadpool, the only X-Men sort of theme thing that Leia is doing this season. But until then, take it away, Vandello.
A little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't elating me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.